Hello YouTube, it's your boy Jackson here. Today I'm going to be giving you guys the breakdown on how to do a track stand on fixed gears or any other kind of bike for that matter. So before we get into the video, I want to tell you guys about a little contest that FOAD is doing to help support the Black Lives Matter movement. All of the proceeds will be matched and donated to the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. All of the details are at the end of the video. Make sure you check it out. So I know a lot of you guys are out there already know how to do track stands and nonetheless crazy combos with them. But for those of you guys who don't know how to do a track stand, I thought it'd be kind of cool to give a step-by-step guide. It definitely comes in handy whether you're trying to do track stand combos or you just want to be able to not put your foot down at a stoplight. Track stands come in handy. When you see it for the first time, it looks really simple, but it's actually takes a lot more balance than it looks like. So let's talk about what you guys need before you get started. Not really a whole lot for this one. You can pretty much do this on any bike. Your regular bike setup is gonna work just fine. Just make sure you feel comfortable on your own bike. For the freewheeled portion, I'm gonna be demonstrating on my mountain bike, but all of the concepts apply to basically any bike that can coast. Road bike, gravel bike, fat bike, BMX, doesn't matter. The one thing I would maybe think about doing is if you have clipless pedals and you're first learning this, might be a good idea to not clip in or use some flats. We've all done it, I've done it. You think you can get your foot out and you just tumble over and it sucks. First, I'm gonna walk through doing a track stand on a track bike or a fixed gear. That's where the name comes from. It's also the easiest way to learn how to do a track stand. And then I'm gonna teach you guys how to do it if you have a freewheel bike. It's a little bit harder, but you can still do it. Without further ado, let's get into it. Some people can just hop on their bike and get into a track stand. I think it's a little bit easier if you roll into it and just slow down. If you're on a fixed gear, slow down with your feet, not your brake, just so you can kind of feel the balance as you're easing into a completely still position. You'll notice from doing skids and other things that you have one foot that you like forward more than the other. So you're gonna stop the bike when your front foot is flat and forward. For me, the best balancing point is with my front foot slightly above level. I personally always have my right foot forward when I'm doing track stands. It just makes things easier. Everybody has a foot they're more comfortable with. It's called your dominant foot. Another thing that might help you with track stands is doing it on a slight incline. I've found that it's easier if you have to push forward a little bit to stay balanced as opposed to, pushing back. This is especially important if you're on a freewheel. One thing that you're gonna notice right off the bat, and it should probably happen naturally, is that you're gonna turn your bars. You're gonna turn them about 45 degrees-ish. I think it's easier if you turn your front wheel towards your front foot. I'm right foot forward and I turn my wheel right. If you were left foot forward, you'd turn your wheel left. Turning your wheel helps you balance and keeps you more planted in the position. Once you're into the track stand, there's really two ways you can do it. You can either be seated in your saddle or you can be standing up. I've personally found it a little bit easier to keep your balance if you're standing slightly out of the saddle. As you come to a complete stop and your pedals level out, start to shift your weight into the pedals and out of the seat. If you're standing up slightly, you can have the saddle and the top tube sort of bounce off your thighs, and that helps you get a little bit more balance side to side. You can also more easily shift your weight forwards and backwards. Once you're in a track stand, it's almost impossible to keep completely still. So you're gonna be rocking back and forth ever so slightly to keep your balance. On a fixed gear, you have the ability to push forwards and backwards. You can use both those directions to balance your weight. So now I'm gonna talk a little bit about doing a track stand on a bike with a freewheel. It's definitely a little bit harder. All of the same concepts apply, except for you can't push backwards on a freewheeled bike. It's almost like you're losing half of your ability to control the bike, so it is a little bit harder. That doesn't mean you can't do it. So as I mentioned before, an incline will definitely help you with a freewheel. Because you don't have the ability to pedal backwards, you will only be able to apply pressure forwards. A hill will help you so that you can naturally kind of roll back and then push forwards and roll back and push forwards. You can also use your brakes, especially your back brake if you're rolling backwards and you want to stop. I don't really use brakes when I'm doing a track stand on a freewheeled bike, but I could see how it would help. When I'm doing a track stand on a freewheel bike, I definitely use a lot more of my upper body to balance. Because you can't put pressure on your pedals both directions, I end up using my arms and my hips to shift around and balance the bike a lot more than I do with a fixed gear. So now that we've gone through all the steps, if you're still struggling, let's talk about a couple of ways that you can sort of correct your balance. One thing that can be really helpful for recovering your balance is skip hops. Basically, all this is doing little jumps either with just your back wheel or both wheels and resetting your position. For me, a lot of times when I'm in the track stand, my front foot can start to go down past level, and when I get into that position, it's really hard to balance. By doing skip hops, I can reset my crank position so they're in a better spot for balancing. If your foot position gets messed up on a freewheel bike, you can crank backwards to reset your pedals. This can be difficult because you're basically not using your feet at all while you're cranking backwards, but it is really nice for resetting your balance and getting your feet in a different position. One thing you can think about is shifting your weight into your handlebars, basically using that solid platform in your front wheel. You could also take off one hand to help yourself balance. This might be harder, it might be easier, it really just depends. Sometimes if you're like sort of falling over to the side, you can just kind of stick a hand out and help yourself balance a little bit. And that's pretty much all there is to a track stand. From there, you can do all sorts of crazy combos. You can take your hands off. You can use your foot on the front wheel to balance. If you're taking your hands off though, you are gonna have to be more in your saddle. People do all sorts of crazy stuff. I've never really been that into track stand tricks, so I've never really cultivated it. If you go to FOAD Gang on Instagram and check out the Track Stand Challenge story highlight, there's a bunch of crazy combos, some inspiration for you guys. So I've been talking about it for a little while. It's finally happening. The Trackstand Competition via Zoom. It's all going down June 13th, 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. Tickets are $5. It's basically a donation. It's gonna go to the NAACP, and that money is gonna be matched, so doubled. There's only 49 spots available, so it's pretty limited. I'm gonna call out tricks. You know, take one hand off, take two hands off, take one foot off. Whoever is the last person track standing will get to pick whatever product they want from the FOAD web store. I think it's gonna be a rad time. I'm stoked to support the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm stoked to hang out with you guys. Head over to foadgang.com for the full list of details and to reserve your spot. If you guys wanna learn more tricks, check out more of the tutorials on this channel. There's a playlist for them. Let me know what tutorial you guys want me to do next. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm trying to do a weekly live session on YouTube on Wednesdays, so check that out. You guys can come and ask me questions there. Follow FOAD on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.